Today we are going to learn about Parliament. What is Parliament and how does it function? So this chapter will be pretty long, so be aware about that, and please understand that it is a very vital portion to understand. So the Parliament. Parliament is the apex legislative body in India. So, what does legislative mean? So, there are three components of the government. We can say that three components in what sense? First is the Parliament, then which is a legislative body, then the President, and the executive body, that is the government. Okay, so now going through this particular thing, we have to understand the point of judiciary. So how does judiciary come in between, but that we will take after some time. So now what is legislative and was it executive? So legislative body is that which makes the laws, and the executive body, it is that which governs, which applies those laws and governs. Modern legislatures in India evolved from the 19th century when legislative councils were formed through various acts of the British Parliament. There were acts of 1919, 1909, 1935, and also before that 1772, etc. That we will be learning in some different chapter. Legislative bodies were made through various acts, we know that, and legislative bodies were made more representative, and progressively more power was devolved through the Government of India Act of 1919 and 1935. The framers of the constitution decided to follow the Westminster Model, and the first Parliament of India came into being in the year 1952. Now, what's the Westminster Model? So Westminster is a place in England where the Parliament of England is there. So we have followed the England. We have taken this particular part of Parliament from the British Parliament. Then how it works, we will see. This particular point I have actually asked you to note down in the previous chapters only. So at a broad level, Parliament is one of the key government institutions to secure all the citizens the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, as resolved in the preamble to the Constitution of India. So why we say like Parliament is one of the key governmental institutions holding all these values? Because Parliament makes law, and those laws must not be something which are taking the liberty of the citizens, which do not propound equality, which does not say that fraternity is an important matter, and all these things. At a more functional level, the mandate of Parliament is as a representative body that makes law, holds the executive accountable, and sanctions and monitors public expenditure. So if government wants to spend something, like the government wants to spend on defense, so it's not something like they are taking their wallet and taking out the money and giving it to the stakeholders. It is not like that. The executive, that is the government, the government has to ask the legislature for this thing. That's why there is specific budget session in the Parliament. And what if the budget is of say 100 crores, and what if there are unprecedented times like the pandemic, where government wants to spend more for the welfare of the country, for the welfare of the citizens? So they just go to the legislature, tell them, and the legislature, with the voting of the members present and voting, make the decision like how much the government will spend, or the government shall spend or not, and etc. And it holds the executive accountable. Now we have understood the collective responsibility between the Parliament, that is between the executive and the legislative body, that is the legislative and the executive body. So collective responsibility says together we float, together we sink. So it is unlike the US Parliament, where both are different bodies. In India, as per the Indian parliamentary manners, both go together, both hold responsible each other. Then we have to understand the individual members of the parliament, which are named as MPs, member of parliaments, are also expected to raise issues of constituency, issue of public interest, which may also be issues that affect the interest of their constituency. So, what is a constituency? So, there are different constituencies for the state legislatures and for the union legislatures. So for saying union legislature, the city I come from, Amravati, so it consists of 6 constituencies of state legislatures combining one. So there may be A, B, C, D, E, and F. These 5 small constituencies coming together to form one constituency of Amravati for the sake of union parliament, or for not union parliament, union legislative body, it's say the parliament. In this chapter we will discuss the two questions, like how well has parliament functioned in these roles, are there design issues that need to be addressed to improve the effectiveness in fulfilling these roles. Okay, so this chapter is structured as follows. We briefly describe the structure of parliament and examine how the representation has changed over the years. Then we look at the performance of the parliament. First, we discuss the decline in the frequency of sittings of parliament and increase in disruptions, as well as the possible reasons for this behavior. Then we look at various functions and mechanisms of parliament, such as caution hour, when parliamentarians hold the government accountable, legislative process, financial oversight, and the committee system, the standing committees, the ad hoc committees, and etc. For each of these, we examine their performance and discuss whether any structural changes can be made for improving outcomes. Finally, we discuss a few core structural issues that impede better functioning: the anti-defection law, lack of recorded voting as a standard norm, and dearth of resources for MPs. So this was the introductory session to this parliament. This chapter is very big. So you have to understand that you have to come with all your armors and be ready for whatever we are going to learn next. Thank you.